want to introduce to you first Loral Langemeier. Most of you, hopefully, that watch this know who she is. You might even seen her book. She's a New York Times bestseller. I'm bringing you here today because she's a millionaire maker. And I think everybody in the wellness industry, especially today, should be not only a millionaire, but never have to worry about money again. And when I attended her seminars, I learned a lot of things that I was doing incorrectly, not with my practice itself, but with the way I was handling my money, the way I was managing my future. And, you know, one thing is you can always make more money, which is always great, but it's always even better if you can get more out of the money you already have. And I think we're going to talk about both those issues, because also protecting your family with what you have, because there's a lot of things. When I went to her big table event, which people paid $30,000 to attend, you know, you get to learn a lot of asset management, you know, liability protection and things like that. And you can kind of take it where you're at and see where you want to go. But Loral's going to share with you some of the insider secrets that she's helped many people. They call her the Millionaire Maker for a reason, because most of you probably have a practice that's worth $1 million, but you don't have $1 million in the bank. So there's a big difference with that. We don't want you to be paper millionaires. We want you to be real fiscal millionaires, that people that can do things with their money and change your lives and the lives of your family and your communities. So I want to have Loral step up. She's going to take us through her presentation, a little bit about what she's going to share with us, and then she's going to open up for questions. So please, if you want to use the chat feature and just put your questions in there, then we can get to those questions after she's done with her presentation. That way she can get through with this, and then we can have all the we'll answer those questions afterwards. So Loral, why don't you take it away?
Absolutely. And I'm going to start with a video, just because a lot of people don't know who I am, and a few things in the video that that won't be told, and I'll tell you more after, is my master's degree was actually in exercise physiology. So I did my first chapter of life in the health world, built fitness centers on the offshore oil rigs for Chevron, and then actually did a lot of corporate wellness, and then met Robert Kiyosaki, Sharon Lechter, and jumped into the wealth and finance space. So been here since 1996. So with that, Steve will show a video, and then we'll get going.
I can make your hands clap. Said I can make your hands clap.
Every small business owner has to have a mentor. A mentor is someone who has walked the path before you. So their job, I think, and I've had mentors since I was 17. That was just a few years ago. If you have the intention of becoming an entrepreneur and making money and getting wealthy, then you form your corporation right now. Instead of focusing on what you can't have and the struggles, you focus on what you can have. And so, like, the illegal conversations I say at home is, you don't say what you can't afford, you say, well, how can we afford it? I mean, last I checked, and I always say this kind of funny, but Christopher Columbus did not discover America so we could have jobs. I mean, he discovered it for entrepreneurialism, for freedom, and we have lost it. We lost it from, generations have lost it. It is time to bring spirit back. I mean, that's where the money's made. I want to be a millionaire, and I'm going to change my choices, my way of living, and really get in action around creating that for myself and my life. The traditional financial planning world doesn't work if you really want to be wealthy. The traditional financial planning world is designed that you maybe stay stable. It designs you to make less as you get older.
Hi, this is Loral Langemeier, the Millionaire Maker. I want you to follow me on Instagram. Make sure you turn on your post notifications so you get all my messages.
What we talk about in the Millionaire Maker is money makeovers and how do you really recreate. Most people are focusing on debt. What we want you to focus on is creating more.
I'd say 80% of my coaching that I do one-on-one with folks is about their psychology and the way they think.
You know, you can run from creditors, but you can't run from your credit score.
Cause I'm in need of something good right now. We could be screaming till the sun comes out. And when we wake, we be the only sound.
You really have to get your money working for you. Most people don't know how to invest. They're investing poorly. They're in single-digit numbers. Millionaires don't do that.
There we go. There we go. So thank you for that, Stephen. You want to move to the next slide? This is just a disclaimer that I do only education, even though I've been doing this now for over 25 years, which is a very long time in the finance space. So I've lived through the downs of 8, 9, 10, obviously thriving through this time and helping a lot of folks. Chiropractors double their money, make an additional 6 figures online, not use their clinics, a lot of stuff. So I do know a lot about the law, tax, strategy, and so I just want to put that out. But let's jump to the next slide and jump in. And again, please be interactive in the chat. What I know about money is that no one's taught money. I grew up in a farm in Nebraska, and I wasn't taught money, right? Everything about money was you can't afford it, the typical stuff. So like, I was in The Secret with 27 other authors, and we talk a lot about just the mindset, right? In fact, Patrick and I are going to take my leading book, The Millionaire Maker, and put it into BrainTap. So you'll have those as recordings inside the system as well. And I've been an BrainTap user for years. I'd say I advocate for health as much as I do for wealth. The reason I went into wealth building is I got the book Think and Grow Rich. And it really resonated with me coming from a farm in Nebraska with no thinking or no conversation about money like this. That, the big question I lived with from 17 years old is when I also started getting mentors is why do so few people not only know about money, they can't become millionaires? It's not a lot of money. It's $333.33 a month. So let's call it $84,000 a month. And there's not a practice in the world that I couldn't turn that up to. I just know how to do business development, know how to manage the tax and corporate structure, the trust structure. And now years later, I have a son that's 22, who is very active on BrainTap after a few concussions. My daughter's 15, both of them use it on a regular basis. But I raised my kids as a single mom and became a millionaire while I was pregnant with my son in 1999. So I've been through it. I lived through it. I'm passionate about it. I'm also coming out with a 6th book, the 4th of the Millionaire Maker series, called How to Make Your Kids Millionaires. So on paper, my kids were millionaires by the age of 10. And you say, well, how do you do this? And a lot of you, and I'm speaking, specifically, to Patrick, your community, is a lot of times, and especially I'm going to say in the medical or the kind of wellness space, is I'm going to, get my accountant, get my lawyer, and leave it all up to them. And that is where most people fail. You have to learn enough to lead your team, which is why I built what I built. So I built an organization. The infrastructure is called Live Out Loud, because we have to talk about money. Because if you misinterpret, like if you read my book and misinterpret what I'm saying, you could get derailed and cost you thousands of dollars in errors. So we love talking about money, and integrated wealth systems is what I did. I have about 28 financial experts. I lead the education, and I have experts in tax, in trust, in insurance, in all sorts of investing, alternative categories. And the biggest one is your tax situation right now. So when Patrick and I were talking about sharing this with your community, I said, we got to do it before the end of the year. And a lot of you, if you think your accountant's doing well, one of the things we're going to offer you at the end of my conversation with you is a 3-year tax return review. And our average people in the health and wellness, especially our docs, they're getting anywhere between 30, and we had one doc just recently get 120,000 back because their accountant didn't do enough in the tax planning. They didn't do enough in the corporate structure, and they just way overpaid taxes. So we do a 3-year review, 18, 19, and 20 for you, see what we can get you back. And then a lot of that money, you want to go invest it. So I've been passionate literally since 17, studying money, even though I went into the health, world and worked for Chevron for a long time, built a lot of fitness centers around the world, went to Angola, Kazakhstan. So I've been around the world doing a lot of this. And then when I went and came into the finance side and the wealth building and education, I took this whole series around the world. So we have taught for your community, Patrick, if they're in all but Antarctica, we have systems and teams and people who can support your desire to. If you're already a millionaire, great, then let's take it up a notch and really look at generational wealth. The book that's coming out in April, How to Make Your Kids Millionaires, is really a generational wealth planning book. Is how do you build it and then transfer it to knowledgeable children? So, I have a whole saying that, I want your kids smart, not spoiled. One of my new dear friends, Chad, actually wrote a book called Smart, Not Spoiled, and have them come along on this journey. When my son was 18 years old, I gave him his first LLC. And now he is a partner in 6 companies with me by now. So we take this really seriously. I met some of folks that were in Patrick, in your community. I just said, I really want to be a resource, be support to you, and be that person you can just pick up the phone, one quick phone call away. You all end up with my cell phone, my text, and ask any money questions, because very few people have a one-stop shop to ask questions in any category, from credit, your personal credit, your corporate credit. A big thing right now that is critical are these EIDL loans. And there's not one person that's listening to this broadcast, even if you're listening to the recording, you have until December 31st to let us help you with that. And a lot of people are leaving that, on the table and not activating it. It would be a massive business mistake to not do that kind of funding. So with that, I'm going to just deepen just our philosophy. If you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I would say that I'm the how-to of the Rich Dad Poor Dad brand. I worked on the Rich Dad Poor Dad brand from 96 to 2000 as a master distributor of their game. So when I got my book, as you see up on my shelf right there, I got a game too. It's called The Millionaire Maker. So if you want a Christmas gift, that's a fun game to sit around your kitchen table, dining room table, and get financial literacy in your family. So Sharon Lecter is still one of my dearest friends from the Rich Dad Poor Dad brand. And as we moved into really, how do people learn about money? What's the most important thing we have to do right away? And it's this: we have to break your pattern. So the pattern of money, and Steve, if you want to go ahead and put up those two circles. First of all, I lay it out differently. I have your income and expenses is your monthly. How much do you make? How much do you spend? And how you spend, by the way, whether you spend personally or corporately, and we teach you a corporate lifestyle, will depend on your tax deductions. See, most people don't teach from a P&L. I start with the P&L, not your bank balance sheet. I start with the P&L. Say, how do you as the entrepreneur, how do you understand it? How can you control it? How can you accelerate it? So from the income side to how you spend for legal deductions is critical. Like when we're done structuring and helping you, there's only about 8 to 10 things that you won't write through your corporate structures. And it's all legal, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I want you to see the pattern. Your monthly, most people live worried about what I call that lifestyle cycle. So if you look at the right side of the screen, it says lifestyle cycle. So what we're taught is that money income comes from a job. And it's right, because entrepreneurialism is not taught, not well anywhere, unless you learn from each other in this mentoring arrangement. Like I learned from Bob Proctor, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar before he passed, Jim Rohn. I mean, I mentored with the kings and queens of this world. I mean, wherever they were amazing, world leading wealth builders or economists or specialists in certain categories. Like right now we're in digital mining. We're doing a lot of digital currencies. We're across a lot of asset classes because I love it. Number one, I love the education of it, and I love the diversity of it. But here's the number one pattern that's the problem, is we're taught that income comes from a job. And then you look over here on the right side, and all of a sudden, in about 16 years old, you get a car, and then you get a house, and then you get, maybe student loan debt, credit card debt, maybe you get married, now you have more debt. And most people live their life then worrying about how much is that monthly expense, right? So your liability is everything you owe people. Your monthly expense is the monthly payment. And if you look at all the marketing in the world, it is driven towards how much can you afford? You want to buy a house? How much can you afford? You want to buy a car? How much can you afford? Even infomercials say, we'll break it down into 4 simple payments or 10 simple payments. So how much can you afford? And that is the psychology from The Secret and everything else I've taught that we are moving you away from. Because you can afford anything you want. You just have to learn to make more money. So the lifestyle cycle has to be broke. And that's not what we give any attention to. Where we're going to really focus and train you as we continue our relationship together is, how do you make more money? How do you accelerate these clinics? I'm going to speak to a lot of you as if you have a clinic. Like I have a chiropractor. In fact, Patrick, I've got to get her into BrainTap, and she needs to offer it. She's in Canada, and she was doing quite well with her clinic. And their payment structures are very interesting, the way insurance is in Canada. I'm married to a Canadian, so I know that structure really well. And when COVID hit, she was my first client in March 2020. And we took her online practice, her mentoring, other ancillary revenue streams. We built revenue streams for over 6 figures. So she's doing just online, not even her clinic revenue, in a different company, an additional 6 figures of revenue. I've taken chiropractors in Australia from 480 to 7.2 million. I have taken a local naturopath here in the Northern Nevada market, reorganized his entire sales, reception, checkout process. And an average client now walks out the door with $426 per client on average per month. per month. So there are so many ways that I cannot wait to teach you how to contract cash. How do you do deposits, pre-orders? How do you manage this cycle of cash flow so it's consistently growing instead of roller coastering? And then as a business owner, it's really important that as you make that income, notice the arrow goes down, you got to start investing money. And too many business owners make and spend, or you make it and you spend only into your company. And so you're later in life and you're like, I only have one big asset and it's my business. And it's not even staged to sell, which I'll help you do those exits if you want to do that too. I have a lot of experience and a lot of breadth that I can't wait to help you all with. So we're going to cut off the lifestyle cycle, increase and create a wealth cycle for all of you. Now, if you go to the next slide, this is why it's so rough for people to understand all this. And before I go into this slide, Patrick, is there any questions or things you want me to kind of point to?
I think you're doing great. I think people are following along and just keep rolling with it.
All right. So employee income. Here's why it's so challenging. And go ahead and put up the employee income side, Steve. This is what we're taught, right? They were taught to go get a job. And I had a job for a little minute, like I said, at Chevron. And then other than that, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. My first little business, where I really got paid, was mowing cemeteries in Nebraska. And that was at 13 years old. And then I had a personal training business and aerobics instruction business. And I did that all through my 20s. And those were companies, but I also was being paid. So I'll come back to the strategy is if you're employed and you're listening to this, it's okay, but you have to have a company that's going to create other income. So here's the problem, and this is an American statistic. If you make $80,000 as a joint family, you're in the top 25% of income earners in the United States. Canada is about 163,000. Australia is about 140,000. I can guarantee you, if you're making 80 grand, you're not feeling like you're in the top 25% of being wealthy at all. And the problem is that kind of money. I'm going to teach you qualities of money, like job income, W-2 income. It's the roughest kind of income. For some of you, and I see this across doctors all the time, they pay themselves too much salary because you're not structured right. So we got to restructure that so you have better benefits for you and your family. So there's two sides of this conversation that we'll work on. One is you and your family and your generational wealth. And the other is if you have partners in a practice, how is that structured? I pretty known, me and our tax team and a few others, for dismantling them, putting them back together in a much more lucrative way and reduced tax way. So your W-2 income, your payroll income, you're taxed 40, 50%. And then a lot of companies are offering 401ks, not that great of a vehicle. And then you're taught that, 2 weeks of vacation is going to be really great. Here's the big one. That's a complete lie. Debt and credit cards are bad. They are totally not. They are the biggest leverage you will use to grow wealth. And then retirement's a goal. Like even Fidelity has a little green line to a retirement plan. A lot of the financial houses do. And retirement is an agriculture word, not a financial word. That means to put cattle to pasture to die. So you're not cows, you're not dying. And then you file taxes in April. So this is kind of the all-American dream, and this is what's going to be great. The problem is you don't get wealthy doing this. You might, if you're super conservative and do the Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman approach and save, you might in 20, 30, 40 years be a millionaire. My promise as a millionaire maker is 3 to 5 years. And I have people knocking out $1 million in a year. Not difficult right now. When markets are as volatile and economies are as volatile as they are since the pandemic started, the best entrepreneurs are crushing it right now. And they're investing in a lot of great assets. So that is my hope for you, is to say, raise your hand and say, I want to take this on. I want to learn more. I want to understand it. And we're going to go one by one. And next we're going to do one-on-one, Patrick. I don't think I told you that. I'm actually going to do one-on-ones with everyone who decides to come in. And then I'll navigate where they go inside of our team based on what they did to themselves. Okay. Excuse me. Because the interesting thing about money is you all did different things to yourself. I say most people have inherited behaviors, like your parents or your friends or, your neighbors. I mean, you kind of look side to side and say, what should I do? Versus look to somebody who's already done it, which would be the mentoring portion of a conversation. And like I said, I've been mentored for a long time. Still have 3 mentors today, one in business, one in economics, and one in finance. And very important because I need to stay ahead of all you guys. So I love it. Now, here's what we teach. This is a lifestyle. It's not a program. It's not a process. It's a lifestyle. So go ahead and put that up, Steve. And this is a worldwide principle. I talk in United States, vernacular and conversation, but this works all over the world. And I've owned companies all over the world. So your company, your S Corp, your C Corp, your LLC, your limited partnership, or your trust, right? The company makes money. If you look back on the left side, individuals get taxed, companies make money. That's just as simple as that. So when your company makes the money, not you, and if you're a sole proprietor, the game's over. I mean, you have to move so quickly from that. I would scream from a rooftop. What a huge mistake. Number one, it's wellness and health, and you need to have some corporate protection against any liability. And you say, well, but my insurance car shows I got a liability insurance. It's not enough. You want that corporate protection, that corporate veil in front of you when you do anything where you put your hands on anyone's. I would say, I was in the health world. So I say, if you put your hands on anybody or give them any health advice or wealth advice, you need to have, well, in anything, you need a corporation. Well, with the new book coming out, we're going to say when you're 18, you need one. If you're serious about living corporate life, if you're serious about being wealthy, serious about being a good entrepreneur, you live through a company, and many companies. A lot of our clients have 5, 10. I've got clients with 20 companies. They're doing so much activity. So your company makes money. Because your company made the money, you have 81,000 pages of tax code. Now, I don't want you to be those folks out there listening and saying, yeah, but I just let my accountant handle that. That's a big problem. Because unless you're guiding your accountant, you know enough to lead them, they're probably just filing taxes in April and just checking the box and saying, another tax return's done, versus really looking at your life and what you want to accomplish and saying, how do I reduce and legally, but minimally pay what I owe in taxes? And then your company can own a solo 401k, which is your own vehicle. You can put $56,000 in there before the end of the year. Now, actually, the truth is you can open the solo, you can open a Roth. You don't have to fund it until April 15th. But if you don't open it by the end of the year, that game's over. And the thing I want you to think about as I'm explaining this is living corporate life is what every wealth builder does. It's what any great entrepreneur does, right? We use our companies. Companies own your car, company owns my phone, company owns this computer. The companies have all of those as deductions, and then you get to put money into your own qualified plan for your own self-directed investing. You'll never go on a vacation again. I'm going to teach you how to always take business trips. And then I'm going to teach you that debt and credit cards are phenomenal and very critical. Every company can have its own corporate credit. If you've done something to your personal credit, we'll help you clean that up. If you've never really taken on getting good corporate credit, it's critical. And so you got to think, if you have 3 companies plus yourself, you have now 4 sources of credit, lines of credit, and capital. And a lot of you may not be thinking over there, well, what would I do if I had the money? You'd invest it. You would start investing that money. So right now, like I have a client that just got $360,000 on an EIDL loan, which those are government SBA loans. Again, those leave, they're expiring 12/31. And they didn't have a lot they needed to spend it on. They needed a better database. They spent some on marketing for their business, but they took the 300 and they invested it, and it's invested at 10%. So that'll make them $30,000. No interest. That's free money. That's printing money is what we call that. So I know I'm like giving a lot of content, but I want you to see there's a system to it. There's a system to building financial wealth for your business, and then from your business to other investments. We're never going to have you retire. We're going to have you set up a freedom day, which can happen in 1, 2, 3, 5 years, however fast you want that to happen. And your companies file tax in September. You personally file tax in October. So there's no more April 15th racing, with the millions of other people that need to file. You just relax. I go spring skiing and hang out, and I live in the Lake Tahoe area, and we worry about that and think about that and worry about it. We do that activity September and October. So if you're not fully living corporate life, I want to invite you. We're going to do a financial checkup. And one by one, I'm going to work with you, and I'll bring in some of my senior team. The year end is critical. If your corporation's not set right, your resolutions and your documentation in the company aren't set right, your trust isn't set right, your insurance, your qualified plans, all these things create a solid foundation for you, for your clinic, for your family. This is Loral. You've been listening to my podcast, Loral's Real Money Talks. If you'd like a conversation one-on-one with one of my team members, the easiest thing to do is call my office, 775-588-9200. Say, I would like a one-on-one with someone on the team. The other thing you could do just to go get some gifts is go to Loral.club, LORAL.club. Loral.club is a place where you can get a free ticket to the marketplace. You also can bring a guest to the marketplace
fill out a profile and get a whole bunch of gifts that we really want to get some feedback. I want you financially literate. The biggest challenge people have isn't that they have a resistance to money. They just don't know about it. So let me help you. And you're here on this podcast, Loral's Real Money Talk. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Real Money Talks podcast. Your host has been Loral Langemeier, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View. Want to learn more about off-Wall Street investing, tax strategies, and multi-million-dollar business strategies? Visit liveoutloud.com/podcast for past episodes, show notes, and resources. For some special wealth-building gifts only for Loral's podcast listeners, visit liveoutloud.com/podcast gifts. Do you have a burning question for Loral? Visit askloral.com to submit your question, and it may just be covered on a podcast episode. So stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to get new episodes every week.